Tonight on NewsWatch, policy reversal. President Obama now wavering on his view of gay marriage. The Justice Department ordered to stop defending the law banning it.
Plus, budget standoff. More states follow Wisconsin and target unions. Revolt now spreading across the Midwest.
And chaos in Libya. The government scrambles to evacuate Americans caught in the bloody street battles. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch.
The Obama administration will no longer defend marriage as being between one man and one woman. Good evening, I'm Wendy Griffith.
And I'm Lee Webb. It is a major policy reversal tonight. The Justice Department now saying it will not defend the Defense of Marriage Act. The order came from President Obama. So what does it mean for those fighting to protect traditional marriage? Paul Strand starts our coverage tonight from Washington.
The Obama administration has decided the federal law that bans recognition of same-sex marriage is no longer worthy of being defended as constitutional. It had to decide because of a case pending in the Second Circuit. The White House spokesman discussed the decision.
The administration will not defend the Defense of Marriage Act in the Second Circuit. Furthermore, the president directed the Attorney General not to defend, because of the decision that it's not constitutional, defend the Defense of Marriage Act in any other circuit, in any other case.
U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder explained some of the reasoning in a statement, saying, "Much of the legal landscape has changed in the 15 years since Congress passed DOMA. The Supreme Court has ruled that laws criminalizing homosexual conduct are unconstitutional. Congress has repealed the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Several lower courts have ruled DOMA itself to be unconstitutional." Jordan Sekulow at the American Center for Law and Justice had this reaction.
President Obama, he's not a king. He can't go around and say, well, you know what, Eric Holder and I decided it's not constitutional, so we're not going to defend a law of the country anymore.
Sekulow sees more controversy ahead for DOMA.
Imagine a civil rights law, the Voting Rights Act, for instance, and a president comes into office after the law is signed and says, I don't like this anymore, so we're just not going to defend it anymore when the KKK challenge it in court.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Penny Nance joins us now. She's with Concerned Women for America. Penny, what do you make of this announcement by the administration?
Well, it's absolutely outrageous, Wendy. You know, this flies in the face of 37 states who've taken the time to in some way enact a law protecting marriage between a man and a woman. The vast majority of Americans believe that it's important to our underpinnings, our social underpinnings, to marriage should be preserved between a man and a woman. And it's absolutely constitutionally inappropriate for the president not to defend in court a law that's been passed by Congress, signed by another president. And so we are outraged by this, and we'll be looking to find someone else that has standing to defend it in court.
Penny, how will this affect the fight to preserve traditional marriage going on in states around the country?
Well, it's very difficult. I mean, this is going to continue through the court system. Eventually this is going to make it to the Supreme Court. We're hoping the House of Representatives will have standing to fight and take the president's place in this. But, you know, this threatens the ability, this threatens economically even. It opens up the door for government funding for spousal benefits for gay couples. It changes the way that the federal agencies handle gay couples. I mean, it really is going to really change the way that the federal government deals with the issue of same-sex couples. And so we really have to work hard to support the states and so also to defend this in court.
Now, many are wondering if the president can even do this. Isn't the Department of Justice required to defend federal laws like DOMA?
You know, the president apparently isn't confused by the facts. And even though he said when he was running that he supported marriage between a man and woman, has changed his opinion on so many issues. You know, he's decided to do this. I believe it's unconstitutional, but we'll go on from here.
What about Congress? Do you see them getting involved in this fight?
Absolutely. I believe the House of Representatives will, and we will call on them to defend DOMA.
All right, Penny Nance with Concerned Women for America. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
The battle between Republicans and unions has spread from Wisconsin to Indiana and Ohio and beyond. The Republicans are trying to balance their state budgets, but unions are fighting their attempts to take away their bargaining rights. Jennifer Wishon has the story.
It's a game of political chicken in Wisconsin that's spreading across the Midwest. Democratic Wisconsin state senators remain holed up in Illinois. They're stalling a vote on Governor Scott Walker's budget cuts designed to close the state's $137 million deficit.
We had to come to the land of Lincoln because we felt that the values and traditions of Wisconsin were being threatened.
But Republicans worry traditions won't matter if the state's spending isn't reined in. The GOP has enough votes to pass Walker's bill, but without a quorum in the Senate, they can't send it to the governor's desk. Walker's bill requires most state workers to contribute more to their pensions and health insurance. It also strips their right to collectively bargain anything but their salaries. And now the governor has upped the stakes, warning that some state employees could start receiving pink slips next week if his bill isn't passed soon. As more states work to trim spending, protests have spread. In Ohio, unionized state workers are fighting a bill that effectively ends their collective bargaining rights. In the Indiana State House, Republicans repeatedly called the roll Tuesday.
Representative Reekin.
Show Representative Reekin is absent.
But only 3 Democrats were present. The rest left the Capitol to allow legislation banning collective bargaining rights to expire. And in New Jersey, Governor Chris Christie has announced major cuts to union employee benefits.
There can no longer be 2 classes of citizens, one that receives rich health and pension benefits and all the rest who are left to pay for them.
Union workers are warning Republicans they'll remember efforts to strip their bargaining rights come election time. But political scientists say cost-cutting measures will also help Republicans with conservative voters, including influential Tea Party activists. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Richard Noyes is with the Media Research Center. He says it's important to look at how the media is covering the protests. He compares the coverage to that of the Tea Party movement.
They zeroed in on pictures of President Obama as Adolf Hitler, signs likening him to a socialist or a communist, things of that nature. If you look at the signs in Wisconsin, you've seen signs painting Governor Scott Walker as Adolf Hitler, signs calling him Joseph Stalin, and yet you haven't seen any criticism of the protests for being inflammatory or going beyond the pale of regular politics. Instead, they've been talking about how they're fighting for rights.
And to watch the entire interview with Richard, just go to our website, cbnnews.com.
And Phil Kerpen joins us now from Washington. Phil is with Americans for Prosperity. Phil, before we get started, let's go back to college and enroll in Econ 101. First of all, tell us briefly, what is collective bargaining?
Collective bargaining is when a union is certified to be the sole exclusive representative of all of the workers in a workplace, or in this case, all of the government workers in a particular, say the schools or say the firefighters or the police. And when they bargain collectively, they can go to the government and say, these are our demands, take it or leave it. They get a lot of leverage, and individual workers can't negotiate their own compensation. So everyone is sort of in it with the deal the union gets.
And why is that bankrupting states like Wisconsin?
Well, what we've seen in the private sector, one of the reasons that unions have collapsed in the private sector is they've put so many businesses out of business that people just don't want to join them anymore. But in the government sector, it's different because they can demand more these enormous pensions, enormous health benefits, lavish wages, and the government can't go out of business, so taxpayers get stuck with the bill, and then a lot of that money that goes to the unions gets funneled back into the political system to help elect more politicians who'll keep doing more of the same. So we have this really dangerous, vicious cycle that's breaking the bank at the state and local level.
Excuse me if I'm misinterpreting that. That sounds like money laundering to me.
Well, pretty close to it, but it's legal, and it's been legal since the late 50s and the 60s in this country, and public employees have become one of the major constituencies politically in this country, especially of Democrats, but also of some Republicans in some places, and it does look an awful lot like a corrupt deal. They get a bunch of taxpayer money in compensation. A lot of it goes to unions directly in forced dues that comes right out of people's paychecks, and those union bosses help re-elect those politicians, and so it is a very dangerous cycle, and I think corrupt also.
Phil, do you think that Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin has the backbone, the wherewithal, the courage to stick to his guns on this?
Well, it sure looks like he does, and we're encouraging him. We put up a website at standwithwalker.com, and we've had over 70,000 people sign up in just 1 week. I think he's committed to it. The Democrats really are being cowardly, fleeing the state, which speaks to that media bias point. Can you imagine Republicans fleeing a state, the negative coverage they would get? These guys are trying to cheat. They lost an election, and they're refusing to do their jobs because they would lose the vote. I think Walker's got the moral high ground, and I hope he sticks to it.
What do you make, though, of Indiana? I heard Governor Mitch Daniels, a Republican and a would-be presidential contender in 2012, saying he salutes the Democrats in the House of Representatives in his state that have left for the same reason.
Well, it was very disappointing. He said that leaving the state, refusing to do your job is a legitimate tactic. I couldn't disagree more with him. He's got a bunch of other priorities, especially education reform, and we agree with his approach on that. But the idea of siding with Democrats to thwart a bill like the Right to Work bill in Indiana, I think was a big mistake by him, and I think it'll hurt his presidential chances.
Phil, do you think we're seeing the end of public sector unions?
Well, I think we're going to see a big blow to them. And the wonderful thing about Walker's approach is it doesn't outlaw the union, but it forces them to have an annual vote so people can choose whether to keep them or not. And it forces the dues to be voluntary. So if workers want to join the union, they'll write a check for those dues instead of the state collecting it for them. And I think those reforms will force unions to actually offer real value to workers. Workers will need to want to join because they get something for it instead of it just being part of that cycle in the political system. So I don't think it'll be the death for unions unless they can't offer real value to workers, in which case they ought to go away. But it will pose that challenge to them to figure out how they can really appeal to people and make them want to join.
Phil Kerpen with Americans for Prosperity. Thanks for being with us, Phil.
My pleasure.
Coming up, Middle East unrest, why the chaos is hurting your pocketbook and wreaking havoc on the stock market.
When you look in the mirror, can you imagine erasing years of aging?
That's what I used to look like.
Lifestyle Lift takes only about an hour. See the difference immediately.
I'm Linda. I'm 70 years old. Can you believe it?
Call now for a free information kit. It's quick, affordable, and takes only about an hour. Lifestyle Lift, a breakthrough medical procedure that helps remove wrinkles, frown lines, and sagging skin. Call now for a free information kit. Consultations are free. Call Lifestyle Lift today.
Something going on at home? Don't go preacher on me, man.
I'm not going preacher. I'm your friend.
A man without hope must accept the past.
I am alone. Been alone since I buried my first boy.
And let faith guide him.
What is there to believe in?
You can never underestimate the power of grace.
This Friday, witness the power of forgiveness.
Are we in this together, man?
The Grace Card, rated PG-13, starts Friday.
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the U.S. dollar and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001 and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive The Secret to Owning Gold in Your Retirement Account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
More protests today in Libya. Muammar Gaddafi is refusing to step down. He is continuing his bloody crackdown on fellow Libyans rallying in the streets. This as countries around the world scramble to evacuate their citizens. John Waggy has the story.
Gaddafi told his people that foreigners were behind the threat to his regime and urged his followers to go after the rats. Gaddafi claims he's ordered no use of force, but Libyan activists say otherwise.
Listen to that. This is heavy weaponry. I'm talking about heavy artillery.
The regime has closed the borders, shut down the internet, and cut off phone lines, so it's difficult to fully confirm reports that the Air Force fired on unarmed demonstrators. But at least one Facebook post confirms people are dying.
A woman went looking out of the balcony of her house. They shot her dead. These are not humans. These are gorillas.
Other witnesses describe scenes of butchery, many at the hands of African mercenaries hired by Gaddafi. Refugees are flooding to the Egyptian border to escape the carnage. Gaddafi is trying for a stranglehold on the capital of Tripoli, but the opposition is prevailing in eastern Libyan cities like Tobruk.
Gaddafi, go away. We don't want you. Neither you or your family or your tribe. Nothing.
The State Department has begun evacuating Americans from Libya in advance of what could become a civil war.
Kind of chaotic at the airport, but other than that, we got through. We're just thankful to be here.
A growing number of analysts believe Gaddafi won't survive this threat to his 42-year rule, but he won't go quietly, and without a united military, what comes after him could be chaotic and bloody.
So the risk there is, as the regime disintegrates and falls, that the country perhaps also disintegrates and falls into different regions and different tribal groups.
Meanwhile, with the future of Libyan oil production uncertain, prices Tuesday took the biggest one-day jump in 3 years, sending the cost of a barrel near the $100 mark. That is stirring fears among investors of yet another world recession.
Well, what you can see from Libya and what you've seen over the past week or so is a knock-on effect within the Middle East, and that is very much a matter of concern, and perhaps more so if it goes to, say, Saudi Arabia or go to Iraq, because the what might happen scenario is really quite, quite unsettling.
John Waggy, CBN News.
A Muslim Iraqi immigrant has been convicted of second-degree murder for running over and killing his daughter and her friend. Prosecutors called the crime an honor killing. They say Faleh al-Malaki killed his 20-year-old daughter because she dishonored him by becoming too westernized. Authorities say he was angry because she refused an arranged marriage, went to college, and had a boyfriend he did not approve.
The 4 Americans killed by Somali pirates are being remembered as adventurous sailors prepared for almost any situation. Jean and Scott Adam had been sailing around the world passing out Bibles since 2004. On this trip, they were joined by friends Bob Riggle and Phyllis McKay. They were killed yesterday after being held hostage for 5 days. Now, family and friends are speaking out about the tragic loss.
My aunt is a very smart and avid sailor. She was living her dream, sailing around the world for this now the 3rd year.
They wanted to make some difference, and they chose this as the way that they could make that difference. Beautiful people, joyful couple.
Navy SEALs boarded the boat quickly after the pirates opened fire, but were unable to save any of the travelers.
Up next, killing the internet. Should the U.S. government have the power to shut down the web? Is it a protection or a limit on free speech?
The doctor said to me, "Peggy, you don't understand. Pancreatic cancer is inoperable and incurable." And he says, "Well, Peggy, you've got 2 months to live." It was like he was telling me, go to the store. There was no compassion. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. My life was an hourglass. I was home, laying on the couch, just dying. My sister Pam called the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. When I got there, I knew that I was going to be cared for. I met with the doctor after the tests were done and said, "How long do I have?" And he looked at me and he said, "Peggy, we did a lot of tests on you, and I never saw one thing stamped on the bottom of your foot that said you were going to die in 2 months. You have no expiration date." I thought, wow.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is unlike any other cancer hospital, full of hope, committed to your fight. We use every weapon: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, nutrition, spiritual support, and mind-body medicine. We surround you with a real team, working together, all under one roof.
Each time I went back to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I responded better. My tumors were shrinking. Came back in September again, and they still couldn't see anything. I said, "You're kidding me." We'll see how it goes. We'll keep testing, but we can't see the tumors anymore.
Please call the number on your screen to speak with an oncology information specialist and receive a life-changing information kit and DVD packed with valuable information. Call now and learn about treatment options you may not even know exist.
It's really unbelievable how one doctor can tell me I have 2 months to live. And then I go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and they saved my life. Hope is a mainstay. Hope is everything.
Don't give up. Your fight is our fight. Call Cancer Treatment Centers of America today.
We have breaking news out of Israel tonight. Gaza militants have fired a rocket on Israel for the first time since the Gaza war. Jerusalem news organizations are reporting that 3 Grad rockets were fired on the town of Beersheba. This after the Israeli Defense Forces fired at them earlier in the day. You can go to cbnnews.com for the latest on this developing story.
The time has come to outlaw prostitution in Nevada. That's the word from Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Nevada is the only state in America where the sale of sex is legal. Under state law, prostitution is allowed in counties with less than 400,000 residents. There are currently 10 rural Nevada counties that have brothels. Reid says that ending prostitution is a way to attract more business to his state.
Nevada needs to be known as the first place for innovation and investment, not the last place where prostitution is still legal. If we want to attract business to Nevada that puts people back to work, the time has come to outlaw prostitution.
Reid says that prospective employers with families don't want their children to look out a school bus and see a brothel.
Rahm Emanuel will be the new mayor of Chicago. He is President Obama's former chief of staff, and he coasted to victory Tuesday, winning 55% of the vote. He defeated 5 other candidates and will not need to face a runoff. Emanuel will face big budget deficits, though, and city pension problems. Chicago is on track for a $1 billion budget shortfall.
China's ruling Communist Party has launched an internet search site. The site is operated by China's main government news agency and government-owned phone company. The site will offer a state-approved version of the internet. This is a way for the Communist Party to control what the Chinese see online. For example, searches for the Dalai Lama only turn up articles criticizing him. Searches for the Tiananmen Square massacre have no results. Google closed its Chinese search engine last year because of censorship. Well, should the U.S. federal government have the power to take control of part of the internet?
Some members of Congress say yes, but others fear it would give the government free rein to limit free speech. Jennifer Wishon explains.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has called it a top priority of this session of Congress. Cybersecurity, legislation that would allow the president to flip a virtual switch, shutting down parts of the internet in case of a dangerous cyber attack or national emergency.
This is a matter of national security.
Senators Joe Lieberman, Tom Carper, and Susan Collins introduced the Cybersecurity Freedom Act Thursday. It's similar to a bill introduced last year that critics quickly nicknamed the Kill Switch Bill.
A cyber attack on America can do as much or more damage today by incapacitating our banks, our communications, our finance, our transportation as a conventional war attack.
Supporters say the government needs this power because national infrastructure systems are now tied to the internet. But some fear the legislation is an attempt by government to get its hooks into the internet, giving it the power to limit free speech or silence political communication. Fears that have only gained steam since the Egyptian government shut down internet service during the recent citizen uprising in an effort to stop communication on social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
The internet played a huge role in the Egyptian uprising. You know, for example, between January 15th and January 25th, I was looking at a statistic, close to 5 million Egyptians logged on and created an account on Facebook.
Seton Motley, president of Less Government, says the private sector doesn't need the government's help to fend off cyber attacks.
The kill switch bill is, okay, gee, in the event of a cyber attack, we must have government partner with the private sector to deal with it. Well, wait a minute. That, first of all, assumes that there aren't any cyber attacks going on. There's 100,000 a day. The reason we don't hear about them is because the internet service providers, all by their lonesome, handle it so expertly and so remotely from our experience that we never hear about them.
Senator Lieberman says critics should relax and read the bill. He says neither the president nor the government will ever take over the internet.
If it's really upside down, I want the guys that have been handling it all along, who understand the networks, who know how to fend off attacks, to deal with it.
As the Cyberspace Freedom Act surfs through Congress, critics say they're counting on the new House Republican leadership to keep it from reaching the president's desk. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Up next, the nun who refuses to miss a step. Her secrets to staying young and happy at the age of 103.
The doctor said to me, Peggy, you don't understand. Pancreatic cancer is inoperable and incurable. And he says, well, Peggy, you've got 2 months to live. It was like he was telling me, go to the store. There was no compassion. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. My life was an hourglass. I was home, laying on the couch, just dying. My sister Pam called the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. When I got there, I knew that I was going to be cared for. I met with the doctor after the tests were done and said, how long do I have? And he looked at me and he said, Peggy, we did a lot of tests on you, and I never saw one thing stamped on the bottom of your foot that said you were going to die in 2 months. You have no expiration date. I thought, wow.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is unlike any other cancer hospital, full of hope, committed to your fight. We use every weapon: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, nutrition, spiritual support, and mind-body medicine. We surround you with a real team, working together, all under one roof.
Each time I went back to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I responded better. My tumors were shrinking. Came back in September again, and they still couldn't see anything. I said, you're kidding me. We'll see how it goes. We'll keep testing, but we can't see the tumors anymore.
Please call the number on your screen to speak with an oncology information specialist and receive a life-changing information kit and DVD packed with valuable information. Call now and learn about treatment options you may not even know exist.
It's really unbelievable how one doctor can tell me I have 2 months to live. And then I go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and they saved my life. Hope is a mainstay. Hope is everything.
Don't give up. Your fight is our fight. Call Cancer Treatment Centers of America today.
A nun in Connecticut is proving you're only as old as you feel.
Yeah, and she's using her spunk and a smile to brighten up the day for many others just like her. Sister Cecilia Adorni is the life of the party when she steps on the dance floor. Check this out. She's at the local adult day center here. The 103-year-old has become a regular there. She helps the staff entertain several older folks, many even younger than herself. Sister Cecilia works at the center for nearly 5 hours a day and stays young by dancing with the residents.
So he would call me, take me by the hand, and we would do the polka. But now the poor fella, he's in heaven. So he's probably praying for me. That's why I could still do the polka. People see you happy and cheerful, and they become happy and cheerful.
Wow, it is infectious. Sister Cecilia says one of her guilty pleasures is pepperoni pizza. Folks at the home say she can eat almost anybody under the table.
Yeah, that's what I want for dinner tonight. Then
Sounds good.
I want to look that good at 103. She doesn't have any wrinkles on her face.
She was gorgeous, I know, and she had so much energy. I mean, really. And then last night we had a story about the lady who's 95 who's running sprints.
Yeah.
So we have no excuse. We got to get out there.
I feel like a slug again tonight.
And get going. All right, that's all for this edition of Newswatch.
Remember, you can email us your comments and questions at newswatch@cbn.com.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye.